Hello and welcome to another comedian's interview for my blog and podcast, A Rich Comic Life. My name is Richard Gill and my blog describes my experiences of watching over 1,400 comedians for the last 50 years. I'm delighted to welcome my guest today. It's the wonderful musical comedian Frizzle. Yay!
Yes! Oh, hello! Golly gosh, hi! Hello! Hi! Wow!
Hello!
What a welcome! I wish all my audience greeted me like that. That's amazing.
How are you? You all right?
I'm very well. I'm currently up in Scotland.
Indeed.
And luckily they have the internet there now, so we're able to do this interview.
Exactly. I'm so delighted you're my guest. We're going to talk about the next 45 minutes to an hour about
Lovely.
your comedy career.
Thank you.
And I'd like to start off, if I may, please. How did you become a musical comedian in the first place?
Well, as a kid, one of my hyperfixations were song parodies, and a lot of the time I hadn't even heard the original, and I would love a parody. I remember like staying up till something like 10 p.m. to watch the Frank Skinner show because he always opened with a parody song. And there was one whilst Sven-Goran Eriksson was in charge of England, the England football team. So that, what was that, early 2000s, late night? I would have been in my like 13, 14-year-old stage. And I stayed up to watch it. And what he did a parody of Three Lions on a Shirt. He was pretending to be one of those Billy Bass big mouth fishes. And he did a song all about Sven-Goran Eriksson. Now, those are three nodes on a graph that I have no interest in, but because it was a parody, I was like, this is great, and always loved it. Always wrote silly little parodies myself since the age of 7 years old. One of my show and tells at primary school was a parody I'd written, and I've never looked back really.
That's so good. I mean, the originality of it is inspired. But
it's
also
ironic because I'm taking someone else's tune, but very original.
But it's also the way you do it. It's such a joy to watch you. I've been watching you about 2 or 3 years, and whenever your name is on a bill, I'm delighted. I know I'm going to have a great night, and you always deliver. It's so good.
No, thank you very much for those kind words.
It's you are a very funny man. So you decided you wanted to become a comedian. Describe your first gig.
Well, I sort of cheated a bit. My first gig, because I used to like perform little parodies in my student kitchen. At some point in a party, someone would like ask me to get my piano and sing my song about Tracy and Deirdre Barlow. That's a long time since. It was called Tracy's Mom, and you can probably guess what the song was about. And I got in touch with a bunch of people at the Jazz Cafe in Newcastle, and they did a monthly poetry and performance night called Pink Lane. And I got my piano, sort of like played some parodies on that, and it went down a storm. Everyone loved it. But I realize now that it was a poetry and performance night. Everyone in the audience were also performers. So if they were nice to me, I'd be nice to them back.
Brilliant.
My first solo gig was above, I forget the bar name. Bar Soho, maybe, in Newcastle. It's very near St. James's Park.
Yeah.
And it was upstairs in an attic. March 2012. It's my first solo gig, and I hadn't discovered my sort of voice yet, like how my persona. All I had were these parody songs. The clip is up there somewhere on YouTube, and I've got this very Jack D persona about me in the middle of the songs, and then I'm like, da 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 da. Here's a funny little song. It didn't work. It did not work. Like, people sort of laughed at the songs, but not really the bits in the middle. And that's what I really had to work on. But that was a big wake-up call when I started performing at an actual comedy night. Big wake-up call.
It's all experience, I can imagine. You know, the more you do, the more you find your unique style, and the more you develop.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
The audience seem to like it now. It's been 12 years since that first gig, and now I'm quite catty with an audience, and they seem to like me being catty, so I've stuck with it.
That's brilliant. That's so good. So, what do you like to talk and sing about on stage? Do you have any specific themes or anything like that?
It depends. My first few solo shows were what I call like broken jukeboxes. It was essentially parody after parody after parody, and you know the way I do things. I get to the punchline and finish the song. I don't stretch it out and like repeat it. It is like, so on average, my songs are about 45 seconds long.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of songs to put in like an
Yeah.
hour tour show. But from 2019 onwards, I started making my shows half and half, where half of it would be silly songs, the other half would be stories and actual jokes that I wrote. And since then, the audience feedback's been really good. Like 2019 was about mental health,
Yeah.
and specifically my mental health. 2022 was a little bit more into that, but also about body positivity. And then my show last year was about all the various medications I'm on, with the underline being, please go to the doctor if you're ill, because
Yeah.
otherwise it'll be too late. And I sort of tell my story about that. And I don't know, I feel that some people are there just for the parodies, and they're not really keen if they want to sort of hear that. But then that's what the albums are for. I want to have enough to sort of feel like a 40-minute album's worth of songs, which, remember, on average are 45-second songs. So the albums are often few and far between. But yeah, they can listen to them whenever they want. All the music stuff is there and available to stream for free. I'm very much a supporter of putting material out there for free so other people can discover it.
Yeah.
If they want to see me live and see me actually tell stories and do jokes and stuff, or in a conversational environment, that's up to them. If they only like the music and the songs, that's there for them as well. I try and cater to everyone.
The great thing, though, the reason why I asked the question was you do link up. If you go and see you for half an hour or an hour, there is a link to the stories and the songs. Mm-hmm. Like so you do have themes, which is fantastic.
It does depend, because there's I perform a song which genuinely got me banned from a venue in Edinburgh. So whenever I perform that song, I tell that anecdote, and that anecdote started getting longer because I sort of go on tangents that link to the story.
Yeah.
But that when I started writing that was sort of an experiment to see how long I could get like the audience to listen without the keyboard being touched at all.
Yeah.
And I've started doing that a lot more. Like if a song can come with an anecdote with it, fantastic. But obviously I don't want to do 40-second song, 12-minute anecdote, and then another 40-second song with another 12-minute anecdote. That would get very tiresome very quickly.
Tell me about your writing process for a routine, a song, or a show. Do you have a specific writing process?
So sometimes audience members will come up to me and say, how do you come up with your ideas? And I used to say, it all depends. Sometimes, because I try and the punchline of a parody is a rhyme with the song that everyone knows.
Yeah.
My usual opener is a song about working in a cloakroom and then helping myself to coats that are forgotten, and it's to the it's to the Le Chic classic freak out, which I say free coat. That's all I do. I literally do that. I say, and it's that type of bullshit for however long I'm performing for. So sometimes it falls in my head, but sometimes if a song is particularly big, I'll take a few minutes trying to think about it. Like I know what the punchline's going to be a lot of the time. If I don't know what a punchline's going to be after I hear a song for the first time, I usually never do that. So when people say, where do you come up with your ideas? I say, it depends. Either it forms fully in my head. Sometimes I wake up with the full idea. Sometimes it takes me a few minutes, but I will eventually abandon it if it doesn't work. But since the diagnosis I got last year, now when people ask, where do you come up with your ideas? I say, autism, because I'm pretty sure... I'm pretty sure it's just how my brain works, and it fits in with the rest of my life that I've lived so far.
Well, it's such a great thing, and thank you for all the laughs,
Oh,
genuinely,
thank you.
because what you do is very, very special. I can't ever imagine you having a bad gig because you're so in control with an audience. Can you tell me an example of a difficult or bad gig you had, and also a good gig?
Would have
What's the
been
one that
early
you
in my
thought?
career,
Yeah.
bad gigs. Um, like there was one time, but usually it's not my fault. Like I will never blame an audience.
Yeah,
I will happily blame a venue.
right.
I once did a gig in Sunderland downstairs at a restaurant where people were in the middle of eating. There were no lights on the stage to sort of say. It was just suddenly comedians appeared in the corner with a mic,
Wow.
and I don't even think that they knew what was going on.
Wow.
That was a weird one.
That's
At the
wow.
very end, because in the early days, I used to drink like blackcurrant juice from a wine glass to give this
Right.
sort of like Marcel Lucan, Adam Kay style, like, oh, I'm having wine because I still couldn't find my voice yet. I was still like borrowing
Yeah.
from other comedians to
Yeah.
sort of see what fits me best. And doing it at this gig, no one saw that I did it. Um, but at the very end of the gig, I sort of like downed my Ribena, put it on the table, and it smashed. And
No.
I just pretended I meant to do that, and I
Oh,
went
God.
bye. I didn't acknowledge it. I just left the stage.
Oh,
Um,
that's brilliant.
the second worst gig, so that was my worst gig. That was in Sunderland. My
Yeah.
second worst gig was in Sunderland. Um, I
Favorite place then.
Yeah, again, no fault of anyone. It was just a misbooking. It was very misjudged. I was asked to do comedy at the I think it's the National Glass Museum or
Right.
Centre, but there was an award ceremony going on, and I would be the entertainment. I thought this was 2, 3 months into my career, so I thought that's amazing. The award ceremony was for the Alzheimer's Society,
No.
and the audience, I wouldn't say there was anyone under the age of 70 in the audience, except for 3 grandkids maybe in their early 20s.
God.
But they put me on after a very sad story about someone dying, all confused,
Oh
not knowing
no.
where they were. And now here's the comedy stylings of Frizzle, and not a laugh. What I did get, because all my references, none of these people would have got.
No, no.
But the 3 kids in their 20s, right? They kept laughing like this. I
No,
was like,
you need
please
a
don't
big
do
loud
that.
laugh like mine.
Yeah, break the ice. But yeah, and I just did
Oh
the 20
God.
minutes, got paid, got the hell out of there.
You.
Weirdly, that is one of the gigs that I want to forget. So,
I'm sorry you had to bring it up, but thank you. What
but
about
yeah,
your favourite one? Was there a moment where you could think, I can do this and I can make a living from this and I'm good at this?
in 2017 and 2018,
Yeah,
I was in the musical comedy awards final,
yeah.
both
Know
years.
it well, yeah.
So I don't know which year this was. It was the one at the Lyric Theatre, so
Yeah,
probably 2018.
yeah.
And that's 1,200 people in the audience on my every word, just a 7 minute set, and they loved it. At the time, I was living in Ruskington. I had to move back in with my parents during a whole like mental health thing.
Sure.
And I got myself a job at there's in Ruskington, there's 2 places you can work, the garden centre or the Scotch egg factory. And I went for the Scotch egg factory,
Brilliant.
which involved night shifts of me basically shoving meat into a machine and at very minimal wage. And to have that experience at the Lyric Theatre with everyone, 2017 it would have been, everyone hanging on me everywhere, laughing at everything, and then 12 hours later, putting sausage meat in a machine for £7 an hour, I was thinking that it was just depressing. And it was god awful. But my absolute favorite gig that I will ever remember, it was the first gig I did after lockdown. This was a gig that was meant to be in 2020 and kept being postponed. And we eventually did it in probably August or September of 2021.
Yeah.
I was on with Karen Bailey and Ed Gamble.
Oh, brilliant.
And this would have been on the card for months. In one of the reschedulings, Ed Gamble was replaced, and I was like, oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
But then it got rescheduled again, and he could make that date. I was like,
Brilliant.
hurrah! So we're all in the green room, and we're just looking at our phones, and I'm like, yeah, he's just a normal human being, isn't he? That's fine. And then it was the middle section, which I was in, and as I went up to the stage to do it, Ed Gamble followed me. And during my entire set, waited in the wings to watch me, because obviously I'm a comedian he's never seen before.
Wow.
And it was so nerve-wracking just having him there. It was a good 600 in the audience, but my leg was just shaking. But I did something I'd never done before, because usually when I'm a bit disturbed or anxious, because that's something I deal with, I try and get over it and then deal with it later. During this moment, I sort of stopped after 3 or 4 songs and 3 or 4 jokes, 3 or 4 minutes. And I said, just to let you know, I am absolutely shaking. I said, how was my first gig after lockdown? And it's very weird being in the deep end once, Ed Gamble is 4 foot away from me. And because I acknowledged it, I was suddenly calm again. I was like, excellent, I'll carry on the rest of the gig.
Yeah.
And I do that all the time now. If something is just pestering me and stuff like that, I will acknowledge it. I once was beaten up is the wrong word. Some kids in Nottingham attacked me at 6 in the morning.
Right.
They were on bikes and just decided to, just throw a bunch of pedestrians who happened to be out that time. It was really weird, but it really shook me up. And I had a gig that Friday, and I still had bruising and stuff like that and cuts. Yeah. And after 2 songs, I just sort of said, just to let you know, this happened this week. And I started making jokes on the spot about what had happened, because I hadn't completely processed it.
Yeah.
And after that, audience are sort of laughing at this area of Nottingham that's particularly rough. I finished the show. And I do that all the time now. Even doing sound checks and stuff like that, I ask how the lighting's going to be. And if it's sort of too bright, I will say, right, for me, can you either put it a bit dimmer or have the house lights up? And at first I thought I was being a diva, but I want to be comfy. And if it's, within reasonable demands that I sort of say, can the gig be like this? So many promoters will just say, oh yeah, sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
You'll get the odd 1 or 2 who don't want to do it. They'll say, oh, it'll ruin the flow of the gig. It's no, me being shit will ruin the flow of the gig. I'd rather do the best performance I possibly can.
You want everything around you to be as best as possible. I always remember a story. For once in my comedy career, watching you all, I was not in a good place. I was very low because my dear mum wasn't well, and things weren't going so well. So I went back to my home city. I live in London, but my home city's Carlisle. And my brother said to me, we're looking after Mum, have a night off, go to the comedy. And there's a comedy club in Carlisle called the Old Fire Station. It's a music and comedy venue. And the Noise Next Door were playing. So I had a pint of beer, as I'm holding up a glass, sitting in the back with the lights down low, really low, and I just thought, just entertain me. And they bounded on and they said, hello, Carlisle, we've never been here before. Can somebody tell me anything good about Carlisle? Somebody yelled out Carlisle United. Said, oh, great, we've got to sing a song in a minute. Can anybody tell me anything bad about Carlisle? And some bastard in the front row went, Richard Gill. And I'm like, they're like, oh my God,
did they not know you were there?
Here?
Did they not even know you were there?
And I'm like, oh, for God's sake.
Amazing.
I went up on stage singing with them. And at the end of it, I said, you've cheered my night up. You cannot believe. And that's a reason why I do what I do. I mean, it's wonderful going to support you all, because you never know what you're going to get, especially live performance. It's all in the it's all the moment.
My favourite jokes are jokes that could only be told then and there.
Yeah.
And you don't get that on TV panel shows or comedy DVDs.
Yeah.
Like you have to be like in that room at that time.
Yeah.
The joke only works with those specifics. And if you even dared to try and tell someone else what happened, it's like, oh, this and it would be like, did that really happen? It's like, yes, it did.
You can't really big it up, but it's like, I wish somebody was there with me to
Yeah.
witness this, because this
And
is
the only way to do that is to go out and see live comedy.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I wish more people would.
I absolutely fuel off it. It's made me a million times more confident.
Mm.
It's just, I mean, now because of the success of the blog and the podcast, which I'm gobsmacked about, wherever I go, the comedians will come up to me and go, "Oh my God, it's Richard Gill. He's the funniest audience member in the world," and blah blah blah. And normally I run up to them and want a photo, and then they oblige. But it's just lovely. It's a wonderful thing. So when you go on stage, before you go on stage, do you suffer from nerves? And if so, how do you cope with them?
No, I
You've
don't.
never ever had nerves?
Nope. I've had nerves on stage.
Yeah.
But I find being on stage, the power dynamic is with me. I'm the one in charge. When I'm either stood or sat behind that piano or got a mic in my hand, I'm undefeatable. The stuff that I get away with saying to people, if I said it just like down at the pub, I would get glassed so many times. But usually people on the front row, they've sort of like written this unwritten agreement that anything goes. You can take the piss out of me. I don't tend to do that.
No.
I will very subtly, but I make sure I get like their consent. If people are very willing to sort of shout things, that's them saying, I'm here to join in. So I'll be like, excellent, I'll go to you first.
Yeah.
I will never pick on anyone who's just trying to watch quietly or even like a few rows back. If like I ask audience members to like an answer for a question, put their hand up first. I think if they put their hand up, excellent, you are now engaging.
Yeah.
But once I feel like there's any sort of like they don't want to do this anymore, I will leave it. I am one of, I was going to say few comedians, but we definitely outnumber the comedians who do this. I will never take the piss out of someone for standing up and leaving to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
That is one of the things that I think is one of the hackest things a comedian can do. I don't see the professionals do it. It's always like people in their first year or something like that. And if it continues that, then they've not been told.
Yeah.
But as someone with disabilities, I need to go to the toilet sometimes, and if I don't, things are going to be very sour. Yeah. I was in the audience. I was headlining this disability gig. Like, it was all people with disabilities were all on the bill. So I was headlining. It was during one of the Edinburgh Fringes of recent years. And so I was sat like near the back, and it was about 40 minutes in. I thought, right, I'm on in 10 minutes. I think I've got time to go to the toilet, because otherwise it'll be a very uncomfortable performance. And I stand up, and the guy like really rips out. It's like, oh, they were offended at that joke. And so I was like, oh, just let me go to the toilet. And
yeah.
So I went. I was very quick, but he was doing a 10-minute set and I left in his first minute. And I just waited until he was finished before going back in the room. Because that's all I could do, because I didn't want to be ripped in the piss of again. It was just, no, I'm not disturbing your performance. I am wanting to be comfortable for the show. And it happens so many times, and it's never funny. Well, it is to some people, because they're who don't understand, but it's just a very odd thing to do. And I see it all the time. And anytime someone does that, I'm like, oh, you've gone down, in my opinion.
It's so interesting, because for years and years and years, I never sat on a front row. I always thought this infamous laugh that I should get insured would suffice, and I'd sit at the back or in the middle. And a comedy club I went to once, they said, you need to sit on the front row. And all the comedians then noticed, and I was very happy to sit on the front row, and they included me in their sets. And it was amazing. And like you said before, they're all just human beings. They're just looking for someone to maybe engage with during a set. I always remember we went to see Ken Dodd in the 90s. I saw him many times, and his audience was very quiet first half, and the second half he had a joke about newspapers, and he said, and I was living in Crewe at the time, and he said, what's the Crewe newspaper? And I said, oh, it's the Mail. And two old ladies behind me went, no, 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 it's the Chronicle. And I turned around and went, no, no, it's the Mail. And it floored him. And he knew he had some bait.
Yeah.
And so he just took the piss out of me for the rest of the show, which was wonderful, you know. And if you're prepared to do that, do it, because it helps. You know, I think it's such a good thing. And I've learned from that, you know, because I never used to go wanting it, and I don't go wanting it, but certainly if they chat to me, I'll chat back. You know, the worst thing you can do is just sit in silence, unless you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's your job for going around and trying to pick them out, I suppose.
See, I don't sit in a front row because of the unwritten etiquette rule that comedians shouldn't be at the front.
No.
Because if you are asked a question and you end up being funnier than the comedian, that doesn't look good.
Yeah.
If that ever happened to me, I'd probably retire from comedy if someone was funnier than me in the front row. But the thing is that you were talking about laughs. I have a laugh that is impossible to be faked, and it's usually one ha. It's like this sounds nothing like it, but it's usually like ha, and I hate it. And other comedians hate it as well, because usually if they're performing or they're recording like specials for YouTube and stuff like that, like really like 4-camera setups and stuff, they always put on like, oh, I'm wanting some big laughers to sort of come see the show tonight. I've got reviewers in, or I'm filming it. And I'm like, oh, I'm free. It's like, no, Friz, you stay, you come a different night with your one laugh.
I once was in an audience watching a play with my girlfriend about Tommy Cooper. Somebody was playing Tommy Cooper on stage, and I cried with laughter. Right? He got it perfect, and it was packed out, and we went for a drink at the interval, and by the time we came back, everybody around me had gone because somebody was too loud with the laugh.
Oh, dear.
And I'm thinking, well, no, my argument is, by God, laugh like a drain, because that's what everybody wants. You know, I hate it when people say you're too loud, or, you know, if they start criticising, they shouldn't be there. It's like heckling, that we're not here to hear the hecklers, we're here to hear the comedians.
Yeah, I get looked at all the time if I'm laughing in a cinema, and I'm like, do you not get the joke that was just on screen? Like,
it's not me.
I don't know what to do here.
How do you remember all your routines? You have a way of remembering them all. You have things in
autism.
Your head.
Is my one-word answer for that.
I don't.
As soon as I've written a parody in my head, that's how it's done now. I wrote a new one earlier for U2's Beautiful Day.
Yes.
Now
brilliant.
I can't remember the actual lyrics of Beautiful Day. Because that's in my head. And like the next time I'm not going to write it down anywhere, but the next gig I do, I'm just going to find the chords, write the chords on a bit of paper, perform it live for the first time. I'm going to hear it for the first time at the same time as the audience.
Is there a way that you select your songs, or
yes,
how does that work?
Yes. Very tricky when it's like new songs. Like, I love Weird Al Yankovic, obviously, hero of mine, absolute hero. I'm sort of wearing a tribute to his shirt tonight. Not intentionally. It's just been very. We've had one of our sunny days in Scotland today, and I thought I'd take advantage.
Well, that is rare.
Yeah. But what he tends to do when he releases an album is one of the songs, usually the first song on the album, will be a parody of something that's on the Billboard Top 100 at the time of release. And a lot of the time, his songs get more views than the song it's parodying. So I've tried it a couple of times. I did a brief visit on TikTok during lockdown and the like, and I did well, but then I was like, I don't know what to do anymore,
Yeah.
and now I just don't update it and or don't post any videos at
Yeah.
all. And it's nice because like once every 2 months I'll get a comment on an old video saying, "Why don't you update anymore?" It's like, because I've just given you all of my material in these 200 videos. I've got nothing left.
Yeah.
But very briefly, I did try like there was a song in the charts by Maroon 5 called Beautiful Mistakes, and I
Yeah.
thought this is number one. I did a parody, but it was one that took me a fair few minutes. It wasn't instantaneous, and then I recorded it, uploaded it, and then a month later, like no one knew what that song was anymore.
Wow.
So my rule of putting a song in my set is if it came on a jukebox in a pub, would 70% of the pub recognize that song?
Mm.
The other rule I have is to try and make my parodies funny without knowing what the original song is. Like I try and involve jokes in there as well.
It's so well done.
Thank you.
My a regular comedy club I go to years ago, they played the MC played a game to get the audience going, and it was a lyric game. And I hadn't heard this song for years, since I was at college. It reminded me of dancing with this beautiful girl, and he played Bon Jovi, "Living on a Prayer."
Mm-hmm.
And I finished up singing the rest of it to him, and it got a big laugh in the crowd. And he said to me afterwards, he said, "That was extraordinary." I said, "Well, I can't sing a note."
Mm-hmm.
And for a good year afterwards, I would stand up with him and drown out this Bon Jovi song, and then the comedians would come on and go, "Well, I can't follow that."
Yeah.
And that was a nice little way of getting into them, so it's good. Let's move on. I'm very lucky to be able to go to the Edinburgh Festival every year. It's my holiday. I go there for a week. I see about 50 or 60 shows. I've branched out a lot more the last 2 or 3 years, and I do a lot more festivals and fringes. I've just come back from Leicester, had a wonderful time recording this in February. I've got Hastings coming up. We've got Edinburgh, Brighton, and then Hull. Tell me your experience of fringes and festivals, in particular Edinburgh. When you first went, did you go up as a punter? Have you done solo shows? Have you done shows with other comedians? That sort of thing.
My first solo gig at an actual comedy club was March 2012. My first Edinburgh Fringe show was August 2012.
Well done, you.
5 months being a stand-up comedian solo. I got Fingers Piano Bar for
Right.
a week, and they're closed on Mondays, so basically 6 days.
Yeah.
And I just did a broken jukebox style show, which was, hey, here are 50 parodies. And they all fit in the hour because a lot of them were medleys of like very quick successions and stuff like that. And there's about 20 minutes of footage from the first ever show recorded by a friend who was just there. But there was one show I just performed to 5 people, and it was like, yeah, get the word around. But the final weekend I was there, the Saturday and Sunday, the show was full.
Wow.
And I was like, that's great. And I didn't do any guest spots. The one guest spot that I did do, they told me there'd be a piano at the venue, and there wasn't. So I basically did 10 minutes of like very weird, because again, I was not confident in my proper stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
What I was great at was sitting at a piano doing parodies. That was what I did. It's what I did when I started writing them and performing them to YouTube in my bedroom, and then at student parties. That would be my party piece. Like, oh, here's 10 minutes of parody songs. You might like them, you might not. So it was nice that word got around.
Yeah.
And it just like inspired me to do the Fringe show, the Fringe the following year. And I've never missed one, unless of course the end of the world is happening.
Of course.
But I've learned to do it so cheaply.
Yeah. You
so
have to.
cheaply. Like I do the PBH free fringe.
Yeah,
I don't pay to be in the big guide. I design my own flyers and posters, unless there's a content creator who's looking for work. I'll
yeah,
sort of say, would you like to design a poster? But only if I have the money. Um, um, I I stay at a place, university accommodation that's about 6 miles away from
yeah,
Edinburgh, but
yeah,
there's regular trains, regular buses.
yeah,
The people who say, "Oh, I wouldn't do Edinburgh, you just lose 10 grand." No, you lose 10 grand if you hire a big venue
yeah,
in the big and pay for the big guide, pay for promotion,
yeah,
pay for flyers, because I flyer myself, damn
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and you want to live in the center of Edinburgh. The comedians who say, it cost me 20 grand every year. That's because you want to stay at Pleasance Bar
yeah,
every night
yeah,
to try and network with comedians.
yeah,
If
yeah.
you were just happy doing your show and then saying, right, I'm going to go rest for 23 hours, I'll be back tomorrow, you can do the fringe for so cheap.
Well,
Like,
do
I'm in a situation at the moment. We're recording this in March
yeah,
of 2024.
yeah,
And not to drag the thing down again, hopefully by the time this comes out, my situation's better. I'm in a situation right now where I have recently become quite much more disabled than I used to be.
right,
I'm now basically a disabled comedian. It takes me a while to sort of go places. I'm gigging few and far between. The amount of times I've had to cancel gigs on the day because the pain that I'm in is far too
oh,
much.
I'm sorry about
I'm
that.
also, that's not why I'm saying this.
Yeah,
It's not why I'm saying this. But I'm also at the moment living at a YMCA, which is essentially known as a homeless shelter,
yeah,
because things aren't working out in that
right,
way. The place where I live, as in the county where I live, they've really buggered up royally in trying to find me a place to live.
right,
So I'm in this limbo at the moment, and I was in this limbo last year during the Edinburgh Fringe, and so many people were saying, "How is Friz doing the Fringe? I thought this, and this," and I was like, "It's because I do it so cheap,"
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like it's their mindsets which
Well, that's
are, "Oh,
fantastic.
I have to save up all of this money to put on the Fringe." It's like you can do it in like installments of literally probably like £70 a month if you start
I'm
in
with you.
January, and
Yeah,
it's all done.
yeah.
It's really weird. It's really, really
It is
weird.
amazing, and of course the experience when you're there is extraordinary.
Hmm.
And that's the buzz of, even if you just go in and come back out again like you do. So are you, presumably you're there in August, is that right?
Yeah.
So please let me know and I will come and see you definitely this
Well,
year.
it's already happened, mate, because this is going out in October, November time.
Yeah,
You,
well, we're
you,
recording it in March, but
thank you,
yeah.
Richard, for coming to every single performance of my Edinburgh Fringe show. It got a little annoying when you started saying the punchlines at the same time as me. That was real, a bit iffy. But
and,
£20 in the pocket every night, thank you. That was gorgeous.
and what I wanted to say, and I don't know whether I can't remember whether I said this to you on the night, but in 2023 last year,
Mhm.
I was hammered. It was the last day of the Fringe. I was with Nick Kirk and Leslie Gold, who I know really well, who runs Sofa So Funny in London.
Yeah.
And I was with some friends of mine, and Nick said, let's go and see the ACMS Awards, which I knew about, and I thought, what is this? It started at midnight and it
Yeah.
finished at 4 a.m. And I go to the Phoenix pub to see them. I know Tom's been in this, and it was fine. They were great. But then you appeared, and I think yes, I was hammered, but I was so joyous to see you. And I gave you a standing ovation
Yeah.
because you sang "I Want to Be a Door," and I've
Yeah.
never forgotten that.
Yeah, that was a new one I wrote just for that
You just
show.
come on, you did it. You went, yeah, and then
Yeah.
ran off because there were so many gags coming. It was
Yeah.
genius.
No, I
And that's a
remember. I
special
remember clocking
moment.
it because like the stage was here and you were sat that side. I
Yeah,
was like, oh my
yeah,
god! And it was like I was in the middle of a bit. I was like, otherwise I would, I'd say hello, but I'm at work, Richard. But no, yeah, I do
But I
remember
was so
that. That was
pleased to see you. It
that
was
was
so good. It was so
such a
good.
great. If your viewers don't know, the ACMS Awards is
Yeah.
Alternative Comedy Memorial Society, And the awards happen on the very last night of the Fringe.
Yeah.
And basically, if you're a comedian and you turn up at the awards, you've won an award. So
That's exactly it.
it's basically the antidote to people who are like, "Oh, I must win the Perrier this year. I've written my show," and it's all like, "No, we're up for the Fringe too."
It's so good.
Talk to people, get new fans.
So thank you. In my 50 years, it was a special moment. It really,
gorgeous.
I will never forget that. It was so
Thank
good.
you.
And also as well, also a massive nod to Leicester, because that's where I've seen you do your full shows in the LCB depot. It's a really good little venue that for you.
I love that venue so much.
Yeah, yeah. And it was all full, and it was terrific. Let's move on again. So let me just turn the page. So to date, what's been your comedy highlights? Has there been a point where you thought, yes?
Writing for the Now Show and having Hugh Dennis read my name in the end credits.
Wow!
Because this was
I got
3 years.
Recordings.
3 years into my career.
Wow.
And the fact that happened 3 years into my career, I was like, sadly, the momentum sort of stopped after that. But the highlight of the comedy career is like, I wrote a thing that someone else then did on a radio, and then Hugh Dennis read my name at the end.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. I've been a fan. Like I always submitted stuff for like Newsjack and back in the day.
Well
I've not written for DMs Are Open yet, but to have that happen, absolute career highlight, mainly because of the night that it happened. I was like, see, I am doing a thing in comedy. Hugh Dennis said my name, and there's not many Frizzles out there, so it's probably me.
My favorite Now Show episode, like before you go in, they give you a question on the seat that they say at the end. Mm-hmm. And my one was, what's the most ridiculous thing that ever happened to you at school? And it was John Culshaw was the guest.
Oh, yeah.
And my answer was, which was true, I once fell asleep in the sixth form common room, and when I woke up, some bastard had Tipp-Ex'd my glasses, and I thought I'd died. And that's what I wrote on the thing. And and Culshaw read it out in the style of Alan Bennett. And I got on the radio.
Gorgeous.
Oh my God.
That is fun.
It was so good. It's such a really great review of the week's news. And everybody who does it, Mitch Ben's great on it. It's so good. That's
the other things I'll say for like comedy highlights. It's like, I've performed in theaters, I've performed at festivals, I've had like people like I do love when people come to me in the street when I'm with a friend and recognize me from a comedy, and I'm like, I love it when I'm with a friend when that happens. But sometimes it's just tweeting a silly joke and it being quote tweeted by one of your comedy idols who say, "This is a really good joke."
You're doing well, my friend.
Yeah. So at some point last year, the BBC did a drama about Jimmy Savile.
Yeah.
Remember that, the 4-part? What was it, The Reckoning or something like that?
That
with Steve Coogan.
Yeah.
And I did a silly little joke. And my joke was, I'm currently watching the Jimmy Savile drama. The way it's filmed is it takes place in the modern day with flashbacks of Jimmy's early career. So it's essentially now then.
Oh, no.
So that got quoted. That got quoted by Dara O'Brien, which was amazing. I got a DM from a celebrity, a proper, like you will know them. And the DM said, I can't risk retweeting as the Reclaim crowd are out to get me at the moment. But your now then tweet is a really wonderful joke. Applause emoji. I am not saying who it was.
No.
But to get that DM going,
that's fantastic.
Why are they DMing me?
Yeah, and it was just amazing.
So your joke is so great, I can't risk retweeting it.
That's so good. How have you found online gigs? Have you done any online gigs?
Oh, mate, you met me after lockdown, didn't you? The second
Lively.
lockdown happened, I was inspired by the likes of Scott Bennett, who were doing stand-up
Yeah,
shows from the
from his
shed.
shed.
I then sort of like I didn't have the mental wherewithal to carry on my garden centre job. It's very annoying trying to pack plants whilst the radio says every 15 minutes, if your work isn't essential, go home. I'm like, is this essential? I'm making cardboard boxes. Had a full-on mental breakdown. But what I did that Friday, I decided, yeah, I'll do an online show, and I called it Songs from the Spare Room. And I did it that Friday at 7 p.m. And I did it every week, concurrent, for 64 weeks.
Wow.
Including Christmas Day and New Year's Day.
Wow.
And officially the longest concurrently running stand-up show in like one that happened every week.
Wow.
I never got like any. Chortle called me a luminaire of lockdown. Is that the right word? But that was nice.
Being kind.
I know. But I ended up getting a fan base from there, and then when lockdown finished, yeah, that was gone. That finished. I miss lockdown.
Well,
but yeah, it was online. I can do completely. I'm very much online because that's
still does online gigs. So you can.
But that's how I started. When I said that I used to perform parodies to my webcam, upload that to YouTube. Yeah. I know how to perform as like a one person with no audience in the room. Some comedians, when lockdown started, when they were doing like proper online mixed bills, I was on with one, and it was a TV headliner, and the way they did their 10-minute set was reading the chat in the corner that couldn't be seen on the live feed, and they kept going, yeah. No, I hadn't thought of that.
They weren't reading it out.
They were answering questions that the people at home couldn't see.
No.
And I was like, right, you are not good at online comedy, right? You stay home, you wait for lockdown to be over, then go back on the telly where you belong. But I thrived in lockdown. But I love online gigs.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. Who are your favourite comedians, past and present?
Had a similar conversation with a friend a few years ago, which was the first celebrity death that really affected you. And I would say Bob Monkhouse.
Yeah.
Because I was probably 13 or 14 when he passed away, but I remember being loving whenever he appeared on screen, whether it be like in doing stand-up or doing variety shows or game shows that he hosted, or that Jonathan Creek he was in.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just really, I really admire Bob Monkhouse. But it is, I don't want to sound pretentious and just say a bunch of comedians who aren't on the telly. Because like Eric Roy Rushton, I absolutely love.
Oh, superb.
Yeah. That is like the dry sort of thing. I will always have a fun time. Scott Bennett as well. He's great at sort of chatting. Lauren Patterson is, because she's annoyingly younger than me. But I was living in Newcastle at the time that she started doing stand-up courses at like the age of 15. So I'd help run this weekly comedy night at the Dog and Parrot, and like this bloody 19-year-old girl would come and storm the roof off. I'm like, you know, go have a vape. Go hang out in a mall. But she is one of the oh my god, she's absolutely brilliant. Wonderful.
She's been on here. She's absolutely fantastic.
Layla Navabi as well. I utterly love her. Writing is superb. And just there's so much young talent, and I'm approaching 37 this year, and I like that I can recognize, because I remember starting, and I probably would have been around 22 23 when I started, but there was a lot of like older comedians, especially in the Northeast, like in their 40s and 50s, who just hated anyone young. And there was I once did, again, no names, I once did Red Raw at the Stand in Newcastle, right? Which is where it's new comedians on, they do 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or it's established comedians doing new material. It would have been my second show, and I was given 7 minutes because they saw me do 5 minutes a couple of months before, and then they're like, well, we can't give you 10 minutes, but we do like your stuff. So they gave me 7. I was like, lovely, that's nice. So I did my 7 minutes, and then another comedian followed me. That comedian later emailed the stand and went, if I'm ever on Red Raw with Frizzle, can you make sure that I do not follow their act? Because some people in the audience are still laughing at their stuff when I'm on. And the stand reacted to that email by forwarding it to me. Best feedback I've ever gotten. Just another comedian complaining. Loved it.
That is genius. That's so good. My first ever gig was Les Dawson in 1974
yes.
at Scarborough on holiday. It was fantastic. And then a year later we saw Tommy Cooper, and he was just incredible. The curtains open, there's nothing on stage but a bed, and he's lying on it, and there's a woman in the crowd pissing herself laughing, and it trickles round, so everybody is crying with laughter.
Yeah.
Still lying on this bed, he hasn't moved, and after the perfect timing, he just pops his head up and goes, what, has somebody come on? It was genius.
I saw Milton Jones in Newcastle.
Yeah.
And his support act was him dressed as his granddad.
Wow, I bet that was amazing.
He got paid twice.
I like the title of his brand new tour.
Oh, yeah.
Hap
Middleton. Wonderful.
He's so good. He's so
Which
so
I'm
good.
sure has won all the awards by the time this comes up.
Newcastle, though, is that where you're based, Newcastle?
No, I'm I badmouthed their council earlier. I'm East Midlands at the moment.
East Midlands.
Have been there for a few years because it's good for transport links.
Yeah. You've talked about lots of comedy in Newcastle. I love the likes of Chris Ramsey. I love Reeves and Mortimer. I saw Reeves and Mortimer Big Night Out in 1990 in Newcastle, and Les, what a creation he was. The scientist walked on, and there was a step ladder on stage, and he climbed it, and he got out a fishing rod, and somebody threw a loaf of bread onto the stage, and he had to hook the loaf of bread, and when he did, the crowd went bananas.
I mean, you've seen Tim Vine's pen behind the ear. You've seen that.
I love that. I love the off the wall, and that's a bit like you. You never know what you're going to get with you. And that's wonderful.
Are you London based?
Yes, I live in London, but I get up to Carlisle quite.
But have you seen like Weirdos Comedy Collective?
No,
because they're a big part of ACMS. It's people like Adam Larter,
yes,
Mark Dean Quinn,
yeah.
And their comedy is so abstract. Mark Dean Quinn's show last year at the Edinburgh Fringe took place at 1 a.m, maybe even 2 a.m, and he would get slices of like cheese, like the processed cheese, go to an audience member, pick a cheese. They'd pick a cheese, put it back anywhere in the pack, and he would. Then he'd shuffle them again, and he would unwrap the cheese one by one, eat it, and say, "That's not your cheese." He would eat 144 slices of cheese a night.
Wow.
With this routine.
Wow.
With like little bits in between, but the audience.
That's extraordinary.
Full rooms every time at 2 a.m.
Wow. That's incredible.
There was one time where his doctor said, "Stop doing this." So he did it with lettuce leaves.
I'm going. That's.
I am obsessed with their minds. The whole Weirdos Comedy Collective.
Oh yeah, well I have heard of it, and I knew it's part of ACMS, so I must track that down. My favourite ever opening line to any gig was the wonderful Harry Hill. When I saw him before he was famous downstairs at the King's Head, about 1990, and he was late for the show, and he brushed past me. He jumped up on the stage and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry I'm late. I had to have a testicle brought down," and he got a laugh. And then he said, "From Derby." And when I met him 30 odd years later, I said, "That was extraordinary." And I told him all about it. And he goes, "Rich," he said, I still tell that to this day.
There's something brilliant about an opening first line, because my favourite at the moment is Anna Thomas, who will go on stage with her ukulele and goes like, "Right, who's up for a song?" And the audience is like, "Yeah," and she'll goes, I'll go first. And then it's just genius, absolutely
It's
genius. I
so
love giggling with
good
her.
when they just hit the spot and you know
Yeah,
you're going to have a good time. Following on from that, like me, do you go to a lot of gigs as a member of the audience?
I do. Mainly during the Edinburgh Fringe. It's
Yeah,
very rare I'll go to a comedy night because a
yeah,
lot of the time it's just my mates. Um, but I went to one at the nearby Theatre Royal. That was really nice. Got to hang out with Fatia El Ghori.
yeah, she's great.
She's great. Um, but yeah, usually it's just Edinburgh Fringe, and it will be if I've got two shows on with 3 hours in the middle,
Yeah,
I will try and find like a mixed bill to go
yeah,
watch,
yeah.
and hopefully I've never heard of them before because I love discovering new comedy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's a wonderful thing about this blog.
and
It's open to everybody, and
mhm,
finding new talent is
mm,
extraordinary. We are raving about Frankie Munro at the moment. I
yes,
hope he's gonna have a great
yeah,
year because the act is so good.
mm,
He's a lovely guy, but when he transforms into him, it was hilarious.
mhm,
We saw him at Hull, and he had me as the stooge, so I was there trying to touch his trowel.
yeah,
It was very funny. Funny man.
yeah.
If you're on a bill of comedians and you're first on,
Mhm.
would you stay and watch the rest of the comedians?
I do.
Good man.
Um, I do if it's feasible to do.
Yeah,
If I don't know, it's been a 4 hour drive, then I
yeah.
will try and get home as soon as I
You have to
can.
get back.
Um, but there's a brilliant thing at the moment called Laughable, run
Yeah,
by Mark Nicholas.
he's just done this. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and the gig that he's booked me for was Saturday night, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Because like it is like accessible for all.
Yeah, yeah,
People
yeah,
do get fatigue when it
yeah.
gets to that time of night.
Oh, yes, of
So
course.
it's very much like open. It's like it was great like having a gig and then being in bed by 9. It was
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah, yeah.
Um
He's really good, and the idea for the comedy club to have disabled comedians is
yeah.
fantastic
Mhm.
because so many are unbelievably funny,
Yeah.
and to get out to the audience. I've so much enjoyed talking to you. You've been a
Thank you.
fantastic guest. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Where your social media
Sure,
handles
I'm
are?
um I'm Friz Frizzle, one Z and two. I'm sure my name will be somewhere on the page in the
Yes,
title,
yeah.
but it's all one word, and
Yeah.
that's my username on all the social medias, I
Have you
assume.
have
And
you
I've got a whole bunch of albums available, frizzfrizzle.bandcamp.com, including 2 live albums and at time of recording, 3 studio albums.
brilliant. Have you got a podcast like me?
No, I,
No.
I, I, I survived lockdown without starting a podcast. It was one of the most proudest things I ever did.
Good man, good
Thank
man.
you.
Well, listen, my friend, I can't wait to see you live again. You are an exceptional talent. You
Thank you.
make me laugh like a drain, and I wish you every success. I can't
Thank
wait
you.
to come and see you again soon.
Always a pleasure making you laugh, mate.
You take care, and all the very best to you.
Ta-ra.